Hello friends, I'm delighted to welcome you to this presentation on the practical demo of 15 key functions of sampling in eCAAT. This is the first video in the practical demo series. I am C. Abdul Rafiq, Managing Director of Windsor Infotech Limited. For those of you who are not familiar with eCAAT, let us give a quick idea of what eCAAT is all about. eCAAT is India's first CAT software. It makes your work life easier. If you are using Excel, then you should definitely use eCAAT because it enhances the power of Excel multiple times. It has been developed by the auditors for auditors to do audit in any IT environment. It can also be used by accounting and compliance professionals for any MIS and BI reports. It has been developed with the effort of more than 25 man-years. The simplicity of eCAAT is it has the look and feel of MS Excel because it fits in and comes as an add-in to MS Excel, and it has the right blend of ease of use and the functionality to make the professional working life much more easier. It can be used for any assurance or compliance or MIS assignment. So what can you do with eCAAT? This gives you a quick snapshot. The bottom line is eCAAT makes data analytics simplified. This slide gives you the 9 key benefits of why you should use eCAAT or what you can get by using eCAAT. I would like just to highlight one important aspect, that this is a comprehensive tool to audit 100% of the data, and you can grow professionally empowered by technology by using eCAAT. Now in this presentation we'll focus on practical demo of 15 key functions of sampling in eCAAT. Let's get a quick understanding of what sampling is all about. Sampling is said to be a process used in statistical analysis in which a predetermined number of observations are taken from a larger population. The methodology used to sample from a larger population depends on the type of analysis being performed, but may include simple random sampling or systematic sampling. Now if you look at the key words here, we have a large population and the selection of the sample depends on the type of analysis which is being performed. You'll find eCAAT gives you multiple ways of analysis so that you can select the right sample. We'll demonstrate this through these functions as we go on. If you look at the eCAAT standards on sampling, they say sampling can be used for compliance testing or test of controls. So it's primarily compliance testing is an audit procedure designed to evaluate the operating effectiveness of controls in preventing or detecting and correcting material weakness. Now this gives you some examples of where you can use sampling for IS audits in the case of compliance testing. Sampling can also be used for substantive testing or test of details. So this gives you examples of substantive tests. For example, you can reperform complex calculations. You can also pick up the sample of transactions towards supporting documentation. Here our focus is on the last part, which is how to select the right sample. You have a population, and using the right sampling technique you should be able to pick the sample, and based on the sample you should be able to draw inference of the population. The key benefit of using eCAAT for sampling is it helps you to select the right sampling technique, to select the right sample so that you can draw the right inference and insights. One of the important aspects when you do information systems audit is to do documentation. This slide gives you a quick overview of the type of documentation which is to be maintained. I will not be going to the details, just to highlight that in the case of eCAAT, most of the audit procedures or the tests which are performed are automatically documented and can be rerun using the rerun task and the refresh function. The commonly used selection methods as per the eCAAT standards, there could be selection on the records in the population subgroups, and it gives you the second type, which is the selection on the quantitative fields. As we see the demo, you'll find most of the sampling methods are provided in eCAAT, except for complex sampling methods such as the monetary unit sampling. But you find that eCAAT provides you some unique and diverse methods of sampling which comes with great type of analytic techniques which are quite innovative. This slide gives you the list of 15 eCAAT functions of sampling which will be covered. We will start with systematic sampling, then we'll move on to random sampling where we look at selecting random number of items. Then we'll select samples based on profiling, and we have 6 types of examples pertaining to profiling. Then we'll get into sampling selected based on analysis, which includes outliers, Pareto details, ABC details, etc. So let's get started with the specific areas. Before that, let me give you a quick overview of the panels and menus of eCAAT. eCAAT, as I said, is an add-in to Excel. So when you install eCAAT, it comes as a tab on Excel. These are the panels available in eCAAT. eCAAT has got more than 260 functions and more than 120 functions specifically focused on data analytics. You have the curate panel, profile panel, analyze panel, and if you look at the analyze panel, sampling is provided as a menu here. The sampling which is provided primarily in eCAAT can be categorized as systematic sampling or random sampling, includes random sampling. You also have profiling and analysis. You also have various other panels such as documentation. There are more than 12 functions pertaining to documentation. You have various utilities which enhances the power of Excel. You also have various tools which help you to navigate and use worksheets and workbooks. Now this slide gives you a brief description of each of the functions of sampling which are available in eCAAT. It starts with systematic sampling. It gives you a brief description of what this sampling is all about. It gives you explanation of what is the random number of items. Then under the random profile submenu, you have got these topics: stratified, summarized, classified, aging, and MIS type of sampling. And then in random analysis submenu, you have got another 7 types of sampling. I'll be explaining this in detail little later when I give you a walkthrough of each of the functions. So let's have a brief description and demo of the 15 functions of sampling with specific reference of sample files for practice. This presentation has been made in such a way that those who are not familiar with eCAAT can learn the analytic techniques and the sampling techniques, and they can apply it in their own environment. And for those who are using eCAAT, we also have given the sample data reference so that they can actually learn and practice these sampling techniques. The first example is sampling, which is systematic sampling. So what is systematic sampling? It displays every nth record based on the interval given. For example, you want to identify every 100th record in serial order or select 50 records for sampling. We will use the sales trans file from the eCAAT sample data. Sampling is used not only in information systems audit, it can be used in any type of audit where you need to select sample and draw inference. For example, if you look at the examples we are given, most of the cases in the 15 examples of sampling using eCAAT, we are looking at the financial statement assertions of a financial audit. So here, if you're using sampling, systematic sampling, you can ensure that you're able to verify the existence or occurrence of the data. Now let me take you to the demo. We are opening the Excel file. Now you have this eCAAT tab here. Now when you click on eCAAT tab, all the functions are shown. Now if you see in sampling menu, we have this function called sampling. I click on sampling. Now the sales trans file is already open. Here I select this sampling interval. Before that, let me look at how many number of records are there. We have got totally about 6,666 records. So I go back to sampling, select systematic sampling. I select, let's say, intervals of 300. I say OK. So I expect eCAAT to give me the samples, compute the samples automatically based on intervals of 300. It gives me the list of the samples which are applicable. Now let's go back again to the same sampling, systematic, and let's select based not on the intervals, based on the number of records. I would like to have, let us say, 20 records, which means automatically eCAAT will compute the interval and it will give you 20 records at this same interval. Okay, so you have based on the invoice numbers, all the samples. So this completes our demo of systematic sampling. Let's go to the next example, which is sampling random number of items, which means selecting sample based on random number of items. The function lists the specific number of records picked at random based on the number or the percentage of records. For example, I would like to select 20 items of sales at random for the purpose of sampling, and we will use the sales trans file once again for this. I'm coming to sampling, random number of items. So you find the interface is very simple. So you have number of records to pick. Now the difference between earlier sampling, systematic sampling, and this was, there it was selected based on a specific interval. Here it's selected random. So here let's say I would like to select 20 records. I click OK, and then I get the 20 records. Now here if you see, these records are selected at random. So there is no specific interval, fixed interval between these records. Same way, let me perform the random number of items once again based on the percentage. So I'd like to select, let's say there are 6,666 records. I'd like to select about 2% of the records for the purpose of sampling. So I should be getting around 133 records. So if you see here, this 2%, and these are also selected at random. Okay, so with this now we have completed the second simple method of sampling, which is the random sampling. Now let's go to the third one, which is sampling based on the top X or using group by. So what is this sampling top last X? So displays the topmost or the bottommost X number of records from the selected column with the option to group as per another specific column. For example, I'd like to select the top 20 sales as per the sales made to each customer. Or let's say I would like to verify all the sales made by each user ID. I will use the same sales transaction file here. I go to sampling. Now if you see here, I have got random profile. I select the top X. Now top X is another function where you can do analysis. I pick the sales, group by, I'll group by the name, or I can group by the user ID. I'll select the group by user ID. Now it has given me the number of user IDs. I select all and say OK. Now this is an analysis function, which means I'm able to pick up the top. I'm able to pick up the group the transactions, sale transactions as per the user ID. Now I click on sampling. Now here is where I give the top records. For example, in this I would like to give the top 5 records. Here I would like to select all the 2, 1, 1. Here I would like to select the top 7 records. Here I would like to select the top 7. Here out of 8 I would like to select 4. Top 4. Here out of 3004, not 6, I would like to select 6. Now out of, let's say, 25. Now here I would like to select, let's say, 8. So totally if you see, we got 50 to 60 records. I say extract. Now it applies the principle of the top in each of the categories which you got. Now it selects the top X records. Now I would like to have this for the purpose of audit as a documentation. I click on the Excel tab. Now you find this information is copied to Excel. See, you have the top last, this is a new worksheet which is added, top last X records, and you have these records which are added. This is more than 60 because if there are multiple transactions, let's say in this case 49,900, it selects all the transactions of the 49,900 because it considers that as one group. Right, let's come back to the next example. There's one more example where we're looking at sampling based on the random profile, and we are going to stratify the data. So the function or the analysis we are going to do is what is called as stratification. Let's understand what is meant by stratification. So stratification, here stratification can be done based on numeric, date or character. Here we are giving you example of a date related stratification. Groups the date related data into different strata based on specific date intervals and displays the count and the sum with percentage for each day strata. For example, I would like to stratify the inventory as on date or the maximum date based on specified intervals of period. For example, we will use the aging analysis for this. Let's understand sampling here. So perform date stratification to select specific number of records on a random basis within each specified date band after date stratification. So it means in the case of date stratification, we first perform the stratification, which is the analysis part. We get the result, and from the result we should be able to select the specific random number of records. Okay, so we'll use the aging analysis file for this. Where is the aging analysis file? Let's go back to our index sheet. This is the index sheet. Now I have to pick the aging analysis. This is the aging analysis. Now look at the data. This is the list of all the age inventory, and it has got the data with the purchase date. So it has the list of items, quantity, rate with the amount. Okay, sampling, we would like to perform the stratified sampling. Now if you see, the interface is very simple. I select, so here I can perform numeric. I could also perform numeric here. I am just selecting the date related stratification. I say OK. So the first part is analysis here. I got the purchase amount by default, the date is selected. I'm going to do the stratification based on the field total is the amount, period is the days, and let's say in this case default I've taken 50. Let's say I would like to change it to 60 days, which means I want the data based on intervals of 60 each. So it automatically computes the lower and the upper limit. I say OK. So in the first stage, the analysis of the data as per the date is provided. So I got the stratified data. So based on this, I get an idea of what's the data of inventory which has the maximum based on the date. Now I select sampling. So here I enter the sample size. For example, I know that I have got this one. Let me sort this. By single click, I can sort this. So in this case, I would like to select 1. This select 2. Here I would like to select 3. Count here, let me select 4. Here I got 5. Now here I would like to select 6. I would like to select 3. Now here out of 10 I would like to select all the 10. Now here I got 15. I'll select 5. So you can decide based on your understanding of the data what is the basis on which you want this data. Let's say this is the highest, 24 March 2, this one. You got the purchase date, you got the sum amount, and then I say extract. Now this extracts the sample for you. There are totally 45 records selected as a sample based on the analysis which you have provided. Let's go to the next example. Sampling. This is the random sampling based on profiling summarized. What is summarized? Let's look at what is summarization. Summarization totals the data in the selected numeric column based for each distinct value and displays the corresponding count and the sum with the percentage. For example, I would like to summarize the sales as per the unique value to identify the pattern of sales based on the value. And let's look at these sampling for summarized. So we want to display the specific number of records selected random for the summarized results, which means first we perform summarization. We'll look at what is that analysis of summarization, what is the result we get, and based on the result, we'll select at random for each type of value or each type of unique value. Let's perform this function. So we will use the sales transaction file for this. I got the sales transaction file, sales transactions. I'd like to do summarized. Now you're not only learning sampling, you're also learning the various techniques of analysis. Accumulate based on the sales. So it means first I'm performing the summarization. Now look at the value, what you get. For each unique value of sales, you get the sales value, you get the count, you also get the percentage, and you also get the total sum. Okay. Now you got this data. Based on this, now you'd like to do sampling. You click on the sampling tab. Now this same result is given here. I would like to see which is the maximum. I just click on this. Okay, now I'd like to pick up sampling based on this value, which is acquired the maximum. I'd like to select 5 from here. Let's say 4 from here. 6, 5. So this is what I've selected. I'm just selecting some of these examples just to demonstrate. I say extract. So totally I've extracted 20 records. Okay, this is based on the summarized data. Let's go to the next example. Sampling, we look at profiling based on classification of the data. So it means first we perform classification and then we'll perform the sampling based on the classified data. So what is classification or classify function? What does it do? It groups each distinct value in a character column and displays sum and the count of a corresponding numeric column. For example, I would like to classify all the transactions as per the user ID and summarize based on the amount. Now if you look at sampling, so it displays the specific number of records selected random from each group of the classified results based on the user input. For example, I'd like to select random number of records based on the results of the classified data. So the financial statement assertions which I've given here, you find you can verify the accuracy and validity of the data. So let's perform this function. We'll use the same sales transaction data. I go to sampling. I'm looking at classification. So we are performing a function called classification. This is similar to the pivot table in Excel. I have selected the name. Instead of the name, I'll change it to user ID. This is the character fields. I want to total based on the sales. I can also do group by. Here we are not doing any group by. I can also decide what are the fields I want to be displayed in the end result. I can also put a condition that I would like to have sales where the amount is greater than 10,000. We are not applying any of these conditions here. I'll say OK. Now it classifies the data as per each user ID and gives you the result. So you find user ID SA has got the maximum number 3406. You also find there are 10 users who have got no user IDs. Now let us perform sampling based on this. I click on sampling. Now it gives me the result. Let me sort this based on the count. So here I've got the result. I can select, let's say in this case I would like to select the one transaction because this is a little peculiar how the user entered only one or two transactions. I'll also select this 8. I also select this 10. Now out of the 749, let's say I select 7. So in this case I select another 7. So it means I'm selecting 1% of the population. 7. I select 9 here. And in this case I select 34. So totally, if you see here, 86 is what I've selected. Let's check the result. Now you see, this is the number of records. It also selected the 10 records which are blank. Okay, this is what you do in classification. So let me just highlight for you that the function of classification, see stratify, numeric. So this is the function of analysis which you can perform. So in this case sampling, we are performing this function and then after that we are doing the analysis. After that we are doing the sampling. Similarly you got summarize. See this is the function summarize which is there as a profiling of the data. Now you perform this function and after that you do the sampling. Similarly, if you look at the analysis menu, you got multiple functions which you'll be seeing. So in this presentation, you're not only learning sampling, you're also learning the various functions of profiling the data and analysis of the data as applicable. Now let's go to the next example. Sampling based on profiling, and this is for aging. So let's understand what is aging as per eCAAT, or in German terminology. It groups and totals all the records that are within or beyond the aging date based on the specified age intervals. For example, I would like to identify the aging of stock items from the purchase date to the specified date. We'll use the aging analysis data for this. So if you look at sampling, here we are selecting based on the performance of aging. From each of the aging strata, we pick up the number of records. For example, select random number of records based on the result of aging of the data. So let me show you a demo. We have to go to the function, which is we have to go to the data, which is the aging analysis. Let's go to the aging data. This is the data we have got pertaining to aging. So we would like to do the analysis based on the aging. So I come to sampling. I come to aging. So here you got this aging based on this particular function. So it by default selected the minimum interval and the maximum interval. I say I would like to have based on the intervals of 45, and I say fill. I can also use the free interval and I can say 0 to 45, 46 to 90, 90 to 130 or 180, like that. I can also specify what are intervals I want. Okay, now this is the interval I have provided. I'll say OK. Now this performs the function of aging, which means all the inventory which is available has been grouped based on the numbers you have specified. For example, there are 3 items between the age of 0 to 45, and there are 3 items between the age of 900 to 945, and there are 0 items between 405 to 450. Okay, like that gives you the maximum number of items as per this. In terms of value, there are 20 items and the total value is 62,07,425 rupees. We would like to do sampling here. So let's say sampling. So it gives me the data for this. So let's sort this. So I sort this data. So here I would like to select 20 are there. I'd like to say 10 items in this because these are the items which have got the maximum age. I select 8 from this. Here I select 8 again. So from the 8 I select 4. From this I select 5, from this I select 3. Like that I can select the number of samples. So totally I've selected 40. I'll say extract. So the beauty of eCAAT is you find consistently it follows the same pattern, the same flow. So you should know how to select and then click. Okay, this is how we perform the aging. Let's now go to the next function. And this is the last function in this particular series pertaining to profiling, and this pertaining to MIS. What is the MIS? It displays for the selected column, the date column, the count, total, minimum, maximum and the average of the record for the selected period. So you can also use it for multiple worksheets on various parameters. So for example, I would like to generate the dynamic MIS for sales based on day of the week, monthly or quarterly sales. Let's look at sampling. In this case, we are performing the analysis based on the MIS. So what random sampling does in the case of profiling MIS is it displays the specific number of records selected random for the results of the MIS function. So you find consistently following the same pattern. We select at random for the results of the MIS function. So in this case, our example is select random number of records based on the result of the MIS. We'll use the sales trans file for this. Let's come back to the sales trans file. And we are performing this function MIS. So the first part is the analysis part. By default, the invoice date is taken. I say total on sales and then I have to select the parameter. Now this gives me various parameters based on which I can select. I have the day of the week, month, quarter, like that. I would like to do based on day of the week. Okay, I'll say okay. Now this should give me the result of the transactions as per day of the week. What are the number of transactions for each day? I can also sort this by just doing a single click, ascending or descending. Now in this case, I've got the result. I can draw inference based on the analysis of the result. Now I would like to do further sampling based on this. I click on sampling, I get the data. So here let's say I select 12, I select 10, and I say let's say I select 6, and in this case let's say I select 5, and this case I select 5. Now there is one more option. This is the sample size where I've given by default. I can also give the sampling percentage. I'll show you in the next demonstration where I'll show you the sample percentage also. I say extract. So totally, if my total is correct, 50 records is what we have selected. Okay. Now if you see, this is a very, very powerful examples of sampling. So what we have done is, we have first performed, for example, let's say I was telling you about MIS. MIS is a function which is there under investigate. The look and feel is the same function is available. So you perform the sales. Okay, you have the day of the week, you get the result, and you do further analysis required. You can also drill down and get the results for this particular day, whatever you selected. Now in the case of sampling, we get this particular results, and based on this you perform sampling. For example, in this case, because this analysis function, sampling is disabled. So you find if you know how to use one function of that particular group, you'll find most of the cases you'll learn how to use other functions also. Now let's go to the next category, which is based on the analysis. The first function you're going to perform is outliers. What is an outlier? It displays the record that exceed X number of times average or standard deviation of the selected numeric column. For example, I would like to identify the sales which are 3 times the average sales or the standard deviation. If you look at the sampling, so what is that you're going to do the sampling? We will get the result from outliers. From the result of outliers, we are going to specify the number of samples we want to select. Right? So let's use the same sales trans file here. Outlier, sampling, analysis. I got outliers. So here it's important you know the right field. You should select the right field. Field for outlier is the sales value. We are not doing any group by. We can also do group by, which means we can do group by name. Okay. Now here it gives you, I want to pick up all sales which is 5 times the average. I can also do based on the standard deviation. I'll say okay. Now it computes the average, and for each of the sales value it tells me what are the items which are exceeding 5 times the average, and it also tells the difference between the average and the actual sale value. So here I've got how many number of times there. It also tells me what are the examples which are there pertaining to the outlier, what are the list of transactions which belong to the outlier. I say sampling. So in the case sampling, it also tells me how many number of times that particular this one outlier is. So here I can say I want to select this example, and based on the sample I specified, I can get the result. Now let's go to the next function, which is Pareto details. You know, Pareto is the 80-20 rule. As per the Pareto analysis, I should be able to display specific number of records selected at random for two separate categories as per the Pareto principle with 80-20. For example, I would like to identify the purchases as per the material code based on the Pareto analysis. So in the case of sampling, what I would like to do is, from each of this Pareto, which is 80 and 20, I would like to select specific number of random samples. Okay, let's go and perform this function. So we are going to use the procurement file for this. We have the procurement file. So sampling Pareto details. I can use a sales transaction file also for this. Now what I'd like to do is I have to pick up the material code and select primary field. I would like to, based on the amount, I would like to pick up this information. Now by default 80-20 is given. We also made the software flexible, so depending on need we can also make it 70-30, 60-40, etc. By default we'll stick to the 80-20. I can also put a condition. I would like to apply the Pareto principle for all sales where the value is greater than 10,000. Okay, we can also compute sum of primary and secondary fields. Here we are not doing anything. Now based on this, I should be able to get the analysis of the data. Now I got the complete analysis of the data. So it picks up all the purchases which has been made based on the material code. It gives me, based on each of the items, how many number of items is there. It gives me the cumulative percentage, and based on this I know 15 types of material codes are there, and the total value is 80% of the purchases. Similarly, if you look at the next one, we've got 9 group of items, and these constitute about 20%. Now here I want to apply the sampling. I click on sampling here. So when I click on sampling, I can specify the sample size. For example, here if you look at the count, there are 88. I'd like to select 8. Here you got 85. Let's say I select 8. And I got 81 here. Let's say I select 4. Now for the purpose of demo, so that I don't need to spend too much time, I'm just selected a few samples. Depending on the practical need, you have to select the right number of samples. I say extract. So totally 20 should be extracted. So you find here total 20 are extracted based on the rules I have specified. So this is based on the sampling based on the Pareto details. Now let's go to the next example, which is based on the ABC analysis. What is ABC analysis? It displays the items in 3 separate categories as per the default or specific percentage given by user as per each category. Groups inventory, for example, I would like to group the inventory as per specific percentage to identify high, medium or low value stock. Let's use the procurement for this. Let's understand what is meant by sampling here. So it means based on these 3 categories of A, B, C, I should have the option to select specific number of samples from this based on random numbers I specify. Okay, let's go ahead. We go to the procurement. We are already in procurement file. So I come to sampling. Now look at the interface, very simple. I select random. I come to ABC details. Now here I have to select material code. I can also do based on the vendor, which means I would like to look at the ABC vendor in terms of who are the vendors from whom we are buying the maximum, and the second and the third one. I have taken the amount. By default it is given as 60, 30, 10. I can also go and change these parameters. So once I do this ABC analysis, it should be able to go through the complete procurement, and it gives me in a jiffy the total number of material items which are purchased, which fall in the 60% category, which means there are 10 items, group of items, which actually constitute nearly 61%. The next group is 31, which is from 60 to 91. So there are 9 items. Similarly, you get the last items of 10%. Now here if you see, I can click on sampling in the 60%. Now here let me pick up the sample percentage. So here out of this I would like to select, say 5%. Here I'd like to select 5%. Here I'd like to select 10%. Okay, so it means you have got 88, which means 5, which means around 4 hash should be selected. Here again it's around 4, 10, which means 8, 4, 4, 16. Here again I'll give 5%. So it means totally I expect 20 to be selected, 20 or 21 to be selected. Now here you got 20 records which are selected based on the criteria we have specified. So this is what is the ABC analysis. Now based on what I've shown you, let's go to the next example. I'm sure now you should be able to give me the demo of how this is possible. We're going to do the ABC details. What is ABC? ABC is an extension of ABC. ABCD is an extension of ABC. So which means here we have got 4 categories, A, B, C and D. So it displays the items in 4 separate categories. As per the default, it's not 3, it's actually 4 separate categories. Okay, this is what is called dynamic correction. 4 separate categories as per the percentage. So let's say I want to group inventories as per the specific percentage to identify high, medium or low value stock. Okay. Now what is sampling? This is also very, very clear. Displays the specific number of records selected random for the result of the ABCD analysis. So we know we are going to get 4 groups of data, which means in 4 different tabs. I should be able to do sampling and select number of samples based on what I have given. I'm sure now with this, you should be able to give me a demo of how this function runs. Right? Now tell me, I go to sampling, random analysis, ABC details, ABCD. Now here if you see, this is what we have got. First, it's important that you select the right item. I want to do based on the material code. Next, I want to do based on the amount. I could also do based on the quantity. Okay, so this is what are the 4 categories I got. I can go and change them if I want. I'm not changing any of them here. I'll say OK. Now I'll get 4 tabs here with the results, which is first 6 items constitute 40%. It's rounded off, so that's why you got this whatever exact numbers are there is given, so it's not rounded off. So you got the next 20% and then you have the last 10%. This is what I got. Now here again, if I have to give sampling, what do? I just click on the sampling menu. I get the list of items. Here I can specify the sample size. For example, here I say 8. Here again I have got 8. Then let's say here I have got 3. Here let's say I give 3. So this is what I have given. So totally expect 22 to be selected based on the category. I selected only one. If I want to go and select for the next sample, what do? I just cancel this. I come back here, go to the next tab, and here once again specify the sample, and I can perform this function once again. Clear? Okay, let's go to the next function now, which is quadrant details. Quadrant is a unique analysis which has been introduced in eCAAT. Let's understand what is quadrant. Groups the data into 4 quadrants as per the specified percentage given for each category based on the X and Y axis. For example, I would like to group the inventory items based on the number and the value into 4 quadrants, and these are the 4 quadrants. It could be low, low, it could be high, low, low, high and high, high. For example, I would like to take the quantity and the unit price, and based on this I would like to put this into 4 quadrants, which means what are the items where the quantity is low and the unit price is low, what are the quantities, what are the items I purchased where the quantity is high but the price is low, and then vice versa. Sampling, I'm sure you have become an expert by now. Sampling is from the results of the quadrant data, I specify the number of samples to be selected, and eCAAT will do the job for you. Let's go and pick up the procurement data for this. Sampling, quadrants. So here it's very important that you select the right item. So I'm going to do based on the material code. So here I said X and Y axis. The primary field is quantity, which is the X axis, and then the unit price is the Y axis. Now it gives by default the 4 quadrants, and it also gives all. And how do I want to display? I can also say I want the statistics. I say OK. Now this performs the analysis of all the data. There are about 2000 items, and then I get the complete results. And as per the material code, it is grouped. For example, this particular material, first item, you got 44, and there's the total sum of the primary field. There's in terms of the unit price. Then you have this item. This is what you have as the total list of items. I have the quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Okay. Now sampling, I'm sure you know it's very simple. I also get the statistics for each of the quadrants, how many number are there. So here if I want to select the sampling, I click on sampling, It gives me the numbers. Based on that, I select the sampling. Right? Now let's go back again to the next function. You find most of the functions have the same look and feel. Right? Now we are looking at RSF result. We are coming now to the last two functions. RSF, what is RSF? RSF stands for relative size factor. It displays the variation between the highest value and the second highest value in terms of difference and the multiples for selected column. Okay, for example, I would like to identify the differential price at the ratio between the first maximum, the second maximum, price, so that we can identify are there any major variations. So in the case of sampling, we know that we are going to get the result of the RSF. From that, I should be able to pick up the samples. We'll use the same procurement for this. Procurement file I've got here. I go to sampling, random analysis, RF results. I've got now based on the material code. Okay, now select the numeric field. I would like to do based on the amount, unit price. This is very, very important because I want to look at the material code. For each material code, I want to find out the unit price and the variance. Okay, now let's look at the result here. This is a very simple but very, very powerful function. So let's look at what happens in the result. I've got the result here. So what does the result show? For material code 462, the total number of items is 74. The first maximum with the highest price at which you bought is 167 and the second maximum price is 17. And the relative variance is 150, the relative size factor is 10. Similarly, look at the next group of items, D910404, we have got 88 times you purchased. The highest price you bought is 1106 and the second highest price is 190. So you find there's a variance and the variance is 6 times. So relative size factor can help you to identify material variances in terms of the purchase which have been made. Now I would like to do the sampling. I click on this sampling. So I get this information. Based on that, I can select. For example, there are 74 items. I would like to pick up 10% of the items as a sample. So let me pick up the sample percentage here. Then I say I'd like to pick up 10% here. So in this case, I would like to pick up 20%. In this case, I would like to pick up, let's say, 5%. Here I'm selecting 10%. So I can specify the percentage. Based on that, I can extract. So for each of this material code for which you specified, it draws the sample and shows you the result. Okay, now if you would like to verify the accuracy of the data, I'd suggest to pause and then you can verify the details and check whether these details are correct. And those of you who are users of eCAAT, you can use the sample data and test it yourself. Now let's come to the last function which you would like to demo, which is the MVF. Now MVF is a unique analytical technique which you have devised in eCAAT. Now earlier we saw the highest and the second maximum. In this case we are looking at the highest and the lowest value, find out the difference between the two, and based on that I should be able to find out what is the variance. For example, I would like to identify the differential price and ratio between the highest and lowest price for each material code. So in the case of sampling, same way I display the results of MVF, and based on that I give the option to select the sample. Here if you look at sampling, I'm sure you already know how to perform this function. MVF, select the function. Now it's important that you should click the right one. I want to do based on the material code. Can I do based on the vendor name? It's meaningless to do based on the vendor name. Okay, then I do the unit price. Can I select quantity? If you do quantity, what is the meaning out of that? There is no meaning in this. Okay, so I want to look at for each material code, based on the unit price, I should find out what is the maximum price, what is the minimum price. Here I should be able to get the result. I have got the result here. So now if you see here, 404, the lowest, the number of count is 88, the highest is 1106, the lowest is 16. Again, if you look at the next item, 980, the number of times you bought is 81, the highest is 110 and the lowest is 8. So there is definitely a discrepancy here. Either it's in the unit price, which is the minimum, or the maximum. So I know the variance. Now based on this, I'd like to select the sample. So I specify the sample size here based on the percentage. Let's say in this case, I'd like to find out 100% of these items. In this case, I'd like to select 50% of the items. In this case, I'd like to select 50%. In this case also, I'd like to select 20%. So I can specify the percentage. Based on this, eCAAT will go and pick for each item the specified number of samples at random and give you the results. Okay. So now in this case, so far now, you have learned the 15 examples of analysis. Based on the analysis, how you can get the results. To summarize, let me confirm and reaffirm that eCAAT offers diverse and unique techniques of sampling which is not available in most of the software, and many of the sampling techniques have been analytical techniques, also have been devised by our team. So in sampling, we had the systematic sampling, which is very simple based on a fixed interval, where the random sampling, because we select specific number of samples based on random. We had profiling, which means we do profiling of the data. Based on the results of the profiling, we pick up the sample, and we have sampling based on various types of analysis. So totally we learned 15 types of unique sampling. So the beauty is, when you use eCAAT, it helps you to select the right sampling technique. Depending on the need, you can decide, and you can select the right sample so that you can draw the right inference and insights. So data analytics you can definitely perform in MS Excel, but with eCAAT, it's like a Swiss knife compared to the ordinary knife of MS Excel. You can definitely perform much more higher types of analysis using eCAAT. So we can say that eCAAT is a multi-dimensional set of tools. It's a time saver because it provides you enhanced use of MS Excel. It's a BI and MIS tool. You can get various type of MIS on the fly. You can also perform data analytics using more than 120 functions which are available, and all this you would have seen can be performed in a few clicks. And this is the beauty and power of eCAAT. That's not only simple to use, but it's also very easy to learn. I hope through this video you will be able to understand what are the different types of analysis you can perform, and based on the analysis, how you can select the right type of samples so that you can draw inference and provide insight, actionable insight to the management. So whether you are doing an information systems audit or a financial audit, you can definitely use the techniques of sampling which are provided in eCAAT. Thank you very much for watching this video. You can watch further videos on eCAAT in the next series, where we will focus on specific audit tests. If you got any queries, you may please write to us on this email. Look forward to seeing you in the next videos. Bye.